My sister kissed my fiancé on the night of our engagement, and now I'm torn between confronting her and saving our relationship. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. After years of dating my high school sweetheart, Emily, we had finally taken the plunge and gotten engaged. The proposal was perfect, a romantic candlelit dinner in our favorite restaurant, followed by a stroll through the park where I got down on one knee and asked her to be my wife. The look of pure joy on her face as she said yes is a moment I'll cherish forever. We were both on cloud nine as we headed back to my place to celebrate with our closest friends and family. My sister, Sarah, had flown in from out of town to be there for the special occasion. She had always been supportive of my relationship with Emily, and I was grateful to have her there to share in our happiness. The party was in full swing, with music, laughter, and champagne flowing freely. At one point, I excused myself to use the restroom, leaving Emily chatting animatedly with some of her bridesmaids. When I returned, I noticed Sarah and Emily stepping out to the balcony, presumably to get some air. I didn't think much of it at the time, assuming they were just catching up. But when I went to check on them a few minutes later, the sight that greeted me made my heart drop. There, in the soft glow of the moonlight, I saw my sister and my fiancé locked in a passionate embrace, their lips pressed together in a way that was unmistakably romantic. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. Part of me wanted to rush over and confront them, to demand an explanation. But another part of me was paralyzed with disbelief, hoping against hope that this was all just some cruel trick of the light, a figment of my imagination. Eventually, Sarah and Emily must have sensed my presence, because they quickly pulled apart and turned to face me, their expressions a mix of guilt, panic, and something else I couldn't quite place. Emily immediately burst into tears, while Sarah tried to stammer out an explanation. "I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me. I've had feelings for Emily for a while, and when I saw how happy she was tonight, I couldn't help myself. I know it's no excuse, but I hope you can forgive me." I don't remember what I said in response, or even if I said anything at all. The world seemed to narrow down to just the three of us, and the deafening silence that hung between us was almost unbearable. I know I must have left the balcony at some point, but the details of what happened next are a blur. The following days and weeks were a whirlwind of emotion. I went through cycles of anger, heartbreak, and confusion, unable to reconcile the image of the two women I loved most in the world betraying me in such a profound way. Emily begged for my forgiveness, swearing up and down that it had been a momentary lapse in judgment and that her love for me was still true. Sarah, too, pleaded with me to understand, insisting that she never meant to hurt me and that she would do anything to make it right. But the trust had been shattered, and I found myself at a crossroads. Do I end my engagement and cut ties with my sister, the two people who meant the most to me? Or do I somehow find a way to move past this devastating betrayal and salvage the relationships I hold dear? It wasn't an easy decision, and I agonized over it for weeks. I poured my heart out to my closest friends, seeking their advice and support. Some urged me to end things with Emily, arguing that I could never fully trust her again. Others encouraged me to at least try to work things out, reminding me of the years of love and commitment we had shared. As for my sister, the reactions were more mixed. Some of my friends were outraged on my behalf, telling me that I should never speak to her again. Others, however, felt that Sarah's actions, while unforgivable, were rooted in genuine, if misguided, feelings, and that with time and effort, she and I could potentially reconcile. Ultimately, I decided that I couldn't give up on my relationship with Emily without at least trying to work through the pain and betrayal. I loved her deeply, and the thought of losing her was almost too much to bear. As for my sister, I knew that the road to forgiveness would be long and difficult, but I still cared for her and couldn't imagine a future without her in it. So, with a heavy heart, I sat down with Emily and Sarah, determined to have an honest and open conversation about what had happened and where we could go from here. It wasn't easy, and there were many tears and raised voices. Emily and Sarah both took full responsibility for their actions, acknowledging the depth of the hurt they had caused. I, in turn, expressed the profound sense of betrayal and anguish I was feeling, making it clear that there would be no quick or easy path to forgiveness. We talked for hours, delving into the complex emotions that had led to that fateful moment on the balcony. Emily confessed that she had been struggling with her own feelings for Sarah for some time, but had never acted on them, convinced that her love for me was stronger. Sarah, for her part, admitted that she had harbored a secret crush on Emily since the day we had started dating, but had always pushed those feelings down, not wanting to jeopardize our relationship. The conversation was raw and uncomfortable, but ultimately, I could see the genuine remorse and desire to make amends in both of their eyes. They both swore that the kiss had been a one-time lapse in judgment, and that they were committed to repairing the damage they had done. It wasn't an easy decision, but in the end, I decided to give our relationship another chance. I made it clear to both of them that it would take time and effort to rebuild the trust that had been shattered, and that any further betrayal would be unforgivable. They both agreed, and we set about the difficult work of healing and moving forward. Over the following months, Emily and I attended regular couples therapy, delving deep into the issues that had led to this crisis. We talked about our fears, our insecurities, and our hopes for the future, and slowly but surely, we began to rebuild the foundation of our relationship. As for my sister, our path to reconciliation was even more arduous. There were many times when I wanted to cut her out of my life completely, when the pain of her actions was simply too much to bear. But Sarah was persistent, and she showed up time and time again, offering her sincere apologies and her unwavering support. Gradually, through countless conversations, tears, and moments of vulnerability, I began to see the sister I had always known and loved beneath the weight of her mistake. I could see the depth of her regret, the genuine desire to make amends, and the pain she felt at having hurt me so deeply. It was a long and painful process, but eventually, I found myself able to forgive her. Not fully, perhaps, but enough to start rebuilding our relationship on a foundation of honesty, trust, and a shared commitment to healing. As for Emily and I, our road to recovery has been equally arduous, but we've managed to emerge from this crisis with an even stronger bond. We've learned to communicate more openly, to be more attuned to each other's needs and insecurities, and to truly cherish the love we share. There are still moments when the memory of that night on the balcony haunts me, when the pain and betrayal threatens to overwhelm me. But we've made a pact to always be honest with each other, to never shy away from the difficult conversations, and to do the hard work necessary to maintain the trust and intimacy we've fought so hard to rebuild. It's been a long and winding journey, but I can say with certainty that I don't regret the decision to give our relationship another chance. Emily and I are stronger than ever, and while my relationship with Sarah will never be the same, I'm grateful to have her back in my life as a sister and a friend. Of course, there are no guarantees in life, and I know that the path ahead may still be fraught with challenges. But for now, I'm focused on savoring the present, on cherishing the love and support of the two most important women in my life, and on embracing the hope that, with time and effort, we can emerge from this crucible of pain and betrayal as better, more resilient versions of ourselves. As I reflect on the events of that fateful night, I can't help but marvel at the complex web of emotions and relationships that have been woven into the fabric of my life. The love I felt for Emily, the bond I shared with Sarah, the deep betrayal and shattered trust, it's all inextricably linked, a tangled tapestry that has tested the very limits of my resilience and strength. In the aftermath of that devastating revelation, I found myself grappling with a myriad of questions that seemed to have no easy answers. How could the two people I trusted the most have betrayed me in such a profound way? Could I ever truly forgive them, or would the scars of this betrayal haunt me forever? And perhaps most importantly, was the pain and heartbreak worth the risk of trying to salvage the relationships that meant the world to me? As I wrestled with these questions, I found myself oscillating between a desire for vengeance and a deep longing to restore the harmony and love that had once defined my life. The thought of cutting ties with Emily and Sarah was almost too much to bear, but the path to forgiveness and reconciliation seemed impossibly daunting. In the end, it was the unwavering support and guidance of my closest friends that helped me find a way forward. They listened to my anguished cries, offered a shoulder to lean on, and gently pushed me to consider the possibility of forgiveness and redemption. And so, with a heavy heart but a stubborn determination, I embarked on the arduous journey of rebuilding the trust and intimacy that had been shattered. It was a process fraught with setbacks, tears, and moments of utter hopelessness, but I refused to give up. I knew that if I could somehow find a way to forgive and move forward, the rewards would be immeasurable. As the months passed, I witnessed a transformation in both Emily and Sarah. They were humbled, contrite, and utterly committed to making amends. They attended counseling sessions with me, poured their hearts out in long, painful conversations, and demonstrated a level of vulnerability and self-reflection that I had rarely seen from them before. Slowly but surely, the walls of mistrust and resentment began to crumble, replaced by a fragile but palpable sense of hope. We talked about our fears, our insecurities, and our dreams for the future, finding common ground in the shared experience of having weathered this devastating storm. It was not an easy process, and there were countless moments when I questioned whether I was making the right decision. The pain and betrayal were simply too much to bear at times, and I found myself wrestling with the temptation to walk away and start anew. But then I would remember the depth of the love I still felt for Emily and Sarah, the years of shared memories and laughter, the profound connection that had once defined our relationships. And I knew, deep down, that I couldn't give up on them without at least trying to salvage what we had. As the wedding planning resumed, a palpable sense of cautious optimism began to take root. Emily and I worked tirelessly to rebuild the foundation of trust and intimacy that had been shattered, communicating openly and honestly about our fears and insecurities. And with Sarah, the road to reconciliation was even more arduous, but her unwavering commitment to making amends and regaining my trust slowly began to melt the walls of resentment that had once encased my heart. It was not a linear process, by any means. There were setbacks, tears, and moments of despair, but we weathered them together, leaning on each other for support and drawing strength from the knowledge that our love was worth fighting for. And when the day of our wedding finally arrived, I found myself overwhelmed with a sense of profound gratitude and joy. As I stood at the altar, gazing into Emily's eyes, I knew that we had come through the crucible of pain and betrayal stronger than ever before. And when I turned to see Sarah, her eyes shining with tears of happiness, I felt a surge of love and pride that transcended the hurt of the past. It was a day filled with hope, healing, and the reaffirmation of the deep, unbreakable bonds that had always defined our relationships. And as I embraced my new wife and my sister, I knew that while the journey had been long and arduous, it had ultimately made us better, more resilient versions of ourselves. Of course, the road ahead is not without its challenges. There will undoubtedly be moments when the specter of that fateful night on the balcony will rear its ugly head, and the temptation to retreat and protect myself will be strong. But I am committed to facing those challenges head on, to continually working to rebuild and strengthen the trust and intimacy that we have fought so hard to reclaim. Because in the end, the love and support of Emily and Sarah are too precious to let go of. They are the cornerstones of my life, the two women who have shaped me and nurtured me in ways that are impossible to quantify. And despite the pain and betrayal, I know that I am a better, more whole person for having fought to keep them in my life. As I look towards the future, I am filled with a cautious optimism. The road ahead may be rocky, but I am confident that with open communication, unwavering commitment, and a deep well of forgiveness, we can emerge from this crucible of pain and betrayal as a stronger, more resilient family. And that, to me, is a future worth fighting for.